This is Scott Roloff with Hospitality Podcast, and I have got Kelly Kleen on the line, and we're talking a little bit about what Kelly does in the hospitality industry and service departments. Kelly, would you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kelly Kleen. I am from Chicago, Illinois. I'm currently working in Chicago, Illinois for Bridge Street Residence Service Apartments and Suites. We do a large amount of service departments in downtown Chicago as well as in the surrounding suburbs. Most of our apartments are rentals. However, we do have a building downtown Chicago that we manage about 140 apartments in.
So with the service departments, what does that mean? What are the services that you're doing?
So we rent the apartment unfurnished, and then we rent the furniture and connect the utilities. We give an expanded basic cable package. Almost all of our apartments are now Wi-Fi, but always have an internet connection in them. A telephone line with local telephone service, so calls within an 8-mile radius, and then electric, gas, water, whatever else needs to be set up according to the apartment lease. And
so you get that all. Do you get that kind of set up all for the corporate traveler, so it's all done and ready for them when they come, and then they stay for a few months, a short while?
Right. Most of the people who come in are either relocating to Chicago or on like a long-term assignment. So they're staying for typically longer than just a week or two.
Right.
Usually like 30, 60, 90 days. There's been people who have stayed like well over a year even.
Yeah. That's a good service. It gives them a little larger place and a good affordable price, and you take a lot of the hassle out of it for them, because that's probably a big issue for them, is to get things set up.
Absolutely. Well, especially for when we think about someone who's relocating, not only are they coming to a new city, they're usually coming into a new job. They might be coming in with a significant other, spouse, family, children, pets. So there's a lot of stress that goes into it. So it's important. I'm the guest service manager for the Bridge Street Chicago office. It's important to keep that in mind when you're talking to our guests, when you're interacting with them.
And you were telling me earlier that one of the issues you've been having with is something a little bit with the bed quality or finding the beds, and I was sharing, that's a big issue with me too, is good bed quality. It
is. Something I always keep in the back of my mind is that people are very selective about their beds. I think a lot of people understand they're coming into like a temporary situation, so it might not be the most comfortable bed. It might not be exactly to their liking. But when we have people coming in for long-term assignment, they definitely want to be somewhat comfortable for the time they're going to be there. And what we're finding is our mattresses, they're not even very old, just a couple of years, they're really sagging in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find a solution for that has recently been one of the problems we're encountering. We've tried putting some boards to stiffen up the platform between the box spring and the mattress, but sometimes it's still not giving all that much support. So
I know I was with the Radisson when they converted all of their hotels to sleep number beds, and I found that it was like half and half. You either loved them or you hated them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're trying to provide good guest service, if somebody hates a sleep number bed, there's only so much you can do, because that's what you have. But some people really loved them, some people hated them. It's just one of those things. I've also noticed people will buy just a very low quality box spring, or they don't even have springs anymore, but they'll just buy these low quality foundations, and it just makes it terrible for sleeping on. They fall apart real easy. The boards break. They're just cheap. It's funny the variety of ones that I've seen too. But getting poor quality beds do affect the service standpoint for those of us in customer service. It's hard to fix it when you're working with something that's broken.
It absolutely is, and it, it's an essential part of your everyday living, of your everyday life. I mean, you're going to go to sleep at some point, and if for our travelers that are coming through, who are relocating on assignment, that are coming through here solely for work, it can be a little bit frustrating because they do get a little bit cranky, rightfully so, because they're not getting a very comfortable night's sleep. They're not getting a comfortable experience. And then to find solutions to fix that is become more and more difficult, especially when it's not rental furniture. I mean, we do have some locations that we rent the furniture, so if the bed is starting to become a problem, we just remove it and we bring in a new or replacement.
Right.
So in working in the hotels, you guys own their bedding, or is it rental?
Yeah. Now the hotels typically buy all of their beds and everything, so it's we control the quality. It's frustrating sometimes when the hotel operator often is not the same person who's purchasing the beds. So sometimes the procurement process will end up, somebody will buy a low grade. I always get frustrated when I see low grade items in a commercial business, because if anything, we need higher quality than what you're going to see in a residence, and bed comfort is a huge area. But as a customer service manager, I guess that's one of your biggest headaches lately, and you get to encounter all the customer service issues and try and come up with solutions for them, don't you?
Yes, I do, and I've been doing it for quite a while now. So I've had some really, a broad spectrum of issues that I've had to deal with. Knock on wood, lately anything that's come through, I have a solution for. I had to get creative over these last years. I'm actually on my 9th year with Bridge Street. So
9 years. So yeah, your profile says
year.
you've been in customer service for 13 years, and you've been in management for 7 years, and been pretty much customer service for a long time. Is that pretty much your primary career has been dedicated towards customer service?
Yes, completely to customer service. I mean, we obviously as a guest service manager, I have some operations as well, but solely customer service.
Right.
Was in retail customer service prior to entering the hospitality with Bridge Street.
Well, have you found any tricks or any epiphanies in your years of dealing with customers of what you like to do when you're, say you're dealing with someone who's upset about a situation, how you might handle that, how you turn it around, what kind of techniques do you use?
I am a big believer in proactive follow-up, proactive contacting, actually. Whenever I have a client or a guest that contacts me with an issue, I tell them I'm going to call you back within, 2 hours, or 3 hours, or by the end of the day, whether I have an answer for you or not. And something else that I just always keep in the back of my mind when I'm helping someone with issues, just try and do whatever you can as long as it's reasonable. If, for instance, if someone's air conditioner breaks, we'll go out to Walmart and get some fans and bring them in if they're not going to be up and running by the end of the day, whether we supply fans or not, which we don't, but as long as something is within reason, just do it. Want to make people happy. Like I said, a lot of the people who are traveling with us, who are relocating or on assignment, are leaving behind a lot. They're leaving their homes and coming to a city that they're unfamiliar with and entering a new workplace, entering a new position. that's stressful enough. They don't need to be worried about coming back to their apartment and, having a broken coffee pot or an iron that's not working or an uncomfortable bed.
Right. And that'll make them more agitated than anything if they're not getting any sleep. So that's real important. I recently was reading an article from ehotelier.com, and it was 7 steps to extraordinary customer service. And before I even read the article, I just looked at the title and I said, to myself, I'll bet that has a lot to do with having that time, taking that time for that personal touch, that individual interaction. And then when I went to reading the article, the 7 steps were, some of it was very much people taking the time to, talk to the client and get to know them and get their feedback. So it was it's a lot of it. That personal touch is so important when having just extraordinary customer service. But some environments aren't very conducive to that. So if a company or organization wants to strive for, and I hear a lot of companies say that they want to be world-class customer service, considered number 1 in customer service. They're trying to achieve the, it's funny, I'll hear this from very limited service and very economy driven hotels, and they say they want to achieve the same level of service as a Ritz-Carlton. But when you break it down, in order to achieve that kind of customer service, you have to have the staff, the manpower, and the budget to really support that. Your staff can't be so stretched out that they can't take the time to interact with the customers. If you've got a staff member who's got a list of 10,000 things to get done before their shift is over, and they get hollered at for every little thing they do wrong, that is not going to be conducive to an environment of great customer service. And I see companies and organizations come out with that type of language, but then they don't back it up with what needs to happen in their infrastructure. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that's just something I've noticed lately.
I do, and I absolutely agree. You have to have the resources to be able to provide your clients and guests excellent service. If you don't, it's just not going to work. If you're being bogged down with too many items, the way I look at it is, especially in summer, Chicago gets very, very busy. The weather's beautiful. There's lots of sights to see and things to do and conferences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we are obviously very, very, very much higher volume than we are in the middle of January and February. The way I look at it is my main focus is customer service. If there's an item that comes up and it's a choice between working on something maybe to help accounting and working on customer service, I put our guests and clients first. And, of course, give my supervisor notification on what I'm doing, that I'm servicing one of our guests, servicing one of our clients. But we can't have these standards of customer service if we don't have the resources, just like you were saying.
Right. And I've found, too, that you mentioned the supervisor. I think the supervisors all the way up that have a huge impact on how you interact with the customers you deal with, because the supervisors that are very easy to communicate to, they have an open door, they entrust you with a lot of freedom. If I have that kind of supervisor, my customer service is going to be better. But if I'm worried that if I say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, I'm going to get in trouble or I'm going to get yelled at, it totally stifles my freedom to really deliver great customer service. So in saying that, an example might be you have an employee that's working with frontline employee that's working with customers every day, and a customer comes up and says, I've got a problem, or I need this, or can you do that? The employee that feels empowered, and that's a word we throw around loosely, but we don't define it enough. The employee that feels empowered feels like they can take a little bit of risk. They can do things without necessarily asking the boss to make sure that customer's happy. If they're empowered, if they're truly empowered, they feel pretty flexible in what their position holds, and they just do it, and they take care of the customer right then and there. The employee that's not empowered is one who has probably been fussed at or even yelled at, which is horrible, but may have gotten in trouble for saying the wrong thing or delivering service to a customer that the boss didn't care for. And once they do that 2 or 3 times, they pretty much stifle the employee into hiding behind policies and procedures on everything. And I think customers sometimes get irate when employees hide behind policies and procedures and just quote it like a robot, but don't really, can't think outside the box in any way. And an employer that will encourage the customer service manager and the guest service employee to just take care of the guest, and maybe within a certain amount of parameters, but to really do what it takes to take care of the guest, that's going to really encourage that service. But it's easier said than done. And even in my role, I've got a lot of front desk people, and I see in them a desire to deliver good service, but there's a constant training of what is acceptable to do, and trying to more or less instill in them the sense that they can make a decision without having to run to a manager all the time. And there's so many managers that can kind of be difficult too.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because in the past, unfortunately myself, I'm sure you too, have had supervisors and managers that have not empowered you. And essentially what you're doing is you're spending more time running to them to ask permission for things than focusing on your customers, which is what you should be doing.
Right. Yeah, and they'll say that you're empowered to do it, but you're not empowered if you go ahead and do something, and as soon as you do it, they say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that."
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've just pretty much stripped away that empowerment that you've been saying you're giving me, because by fussing at me or getting on to me every time I make a decision, I'm going to eventually, especially when we criticize people that are in that role trying to do the right thing, they start to abdicate authority, and they just start, they stop trying. They stop trying to deliver great customer service. So it's so important that we really empower them. And I believe, and I know many others have supported the philosophy, that employees that are happy at work or feel comfortable at work, enjoy their work, are going to deliver greater service.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
And I always, buffer that or try to add to that. It's enjoying your job with the customer, not separate from the customer. Because I've been in places where I've walked in and the employees were having a great time, but they were having a great time with each other and ignoring the customer. So that's obviously not what I mean. But one that really involves the customer and still has a good time at the same time.
I agree, especially because this is someplace, you're choosing to be a part of your team. You're going into your office, they expect a service out of you. Your clients and guests expect a service out of you. You want to deliver that. That's what I strive to do every day.
Do you focus all around the city? Do you have apartments everywhere, or is it like downtown?
We have most of our apartments in Chicago are in the downtown area, the Loop, River North, and the West Loop areas. And then we have several locations that are in the surrounding suburbs, so northwest suburbs, the southwest suburbs, basically within a 60-mile radius of Chicago is where we service. So nothing
Cool.
too far outside of that. Some of the suburban areas are Buffalo Grove, Arlington Heights, Willowbrook, Oakbrook. So suburbs that are fairly close to the city still.
Yeah.
Probably talking about 45 minutes to 60 minutes outside.
That's where Oprah lives, isn't it?
Yes.
There in Chicago.
In Chicago, yes, Tarpo
Yeah.
Studios.
Well, I grew up not far from Chicago. I grew up in Minneapolis. It's just a little drive over. A lot of people I went to school with ended up moving to Chicago later on, I know. And
Yeah.
the weather's kind of similar. In fact, my roommate in college, he was from Chicago. So that's my ties to Chicago.
When I visited Minneapolis for the first time, I actually thought if I didn't know I was in Minneapolis, I'd swear I was in a suburb of Chicago because of the similarities between the two.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yes. The weather, the Midwest feel, everything is very comparable, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good place to live.
Yeah.
I think I miss the north in the summer times. I'm living in Texas now, and 100 degrees day after day after day can get kind of old.
I would really have a hard adjustment with that. As cold as it gets here, I do enjoy the change of the season. I will actually be in Texas over Thanksgiving.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yes.
You'll be down here when the weather's kind of cool.
Exactly. I don't know how well I would handle Texas or Arizona or anywhere like that in the summertime.
Or are you staying with friends and family?
Yes, in Austin.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was going to invite you to stay in one of our hotels.
Oh, well, if I ever come again, I'll let you know. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And if you ever come to Chicago, please let me know.
I certainly will. Certainly will. Well, this has been a great little talk about customer service, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your contributions to the LinkedIn website. The group I just started was Hospitality People Dallas Fort Worth, but anybody interested in talking about hospitality or any connection to me down here is welcome to join and participate. I love LinkedIn. I think it's a great network for a lot of hoteliers and people in customer service too.
It is. I agree. I've had a profile for quite a bit, but just recently started exploring it more and getting more involved, and I'm glad I did. And I really appreciate, Scott, that you've invited me to be on the podcast and for your feedback on my bed discussion.
Yeah. Well, anytime. If you ever like to be on a future podcast, we're always looking for panelists and people to contribute. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll take an article or something new in hospitality and just discuss it amongst ourselves and kind of throw out some ideas that we like. Or sometimes we'll reach out and get somebody on the show who's got some kind of expertise in hospitality and interview them. And it's a lot of fun. It's not really for great income, but it is it's just something. If you got a passion for hospitality and customer service, it's fun to do.
It is. I would love to do this again the next time you guys organize. I don't know how often you record or anything like that, or if you discuss an article, definitely keep me in mind. If I can participate, I would love to.
We record all the time, so anytime you're interested, I'll shoot you a text. Usually on the weekends we do it because we're so busy during the week, but any time. If you happen to know somebody who'd be a great headliner type guest, get them on and we'll interview them. We got Anthony Melchuri on here. We got a few people that are over very large facilities and VPs of companies and things, so it's always fun to interview them and get their take on it.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you talking to me this evening, and let's do this again in the near future and keep in touch too on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've been really excited all week. It was a really great experience to do this. I didn't even know anyone had a hospitality podcast until we connected on LinkedIn. So
we
I've
were
been
one of the
listening
first.
to it and everything.
We started back in 2007, and we didn't see anybody else doing a hospitality podcast. And then some of them started, and they were pretty impressive, and they lasted a little while, but then they disappeared. We've been continuously doing this since 2007. So I guess we're low budget enough, and we don't have a lot of cost associated with it, but we're committed enough to doing it that it just keeps going. And so when anybody types in hospitality podcast on the internet, they should be seeing our information there. But yeah, good to have you on there, and let's talk again soon.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Scott.